Well, hello, my Carolina friends, family, students. It's been a long time since I've made a winter weather video because Mother Nature has not provided us with any winter weather over the last couple of seasons. But here we are on Wednesday, January 21st, 26, and Mother Nature is about to provide us with a big winter storm, I think. So I thought I'd go over a little bit of the science about what's going on, give you a couple options about what you might expect this weekend. But I'll start off by saying this is probably going to be a pretty big storm for the Carolinas, something potentially we've not seen in 10 or even 20 years in terms of ice. So we have a couple of days. The models will be tweaked, the numbers will tweak, but now would be the time to prepare for a pretty big winter weather event. So I'm going to show you two different models. I'll show you the GFS, or what's often referred to as the American model, and the European model, and kind of give you the scenario and walk through. Explain a little bit of the science about what it's expected to happen over the next 3 to 4 days, and give you a kind of a sneak peek of some of the model totals. What we're thinking. So this is the GFS model, so I'm just going to advance it forward. So this is today. So if you look at the Carolinas, one big thing to note is see this big blue H here that says 1053. That's a really big block of very cold Arctic air that's moving across central Canada that's diving into the United States. The temperatures here are like minus 20, minus 30 degrees below zero. So it's really cold air. And the core of this high is sinking southward like this. Meantime, there's an area of lower pressure here off of southern California, the Baja of Mexico, and that's sending a bunch of moisture. It's spinning counterclockwise. You can see all this moisture is now running into the southern side of this cold air. So anything in blue is snow. The pink and purpley colors are ice, and then green is obviously rain. So if I step this forward through time, you can see there's this big area of cold air, and now it's moving into the eastern coast of the U.S. This is overnight Friday into Saturday. So Saturday, like Friday night, it's going to start off fairly mild, but all night Friday night and then during the day on Saturday, our temperatures are going to be dropping, because basically what's happening is, I'll use my drawing tool here, cold air is going to be coming in around this high like this. And it runs into the mountain chain, which is right here, and the mountains kind of funnel it southward. This is known as cold air damming. So that's going to make the air at the ground where we are very, very cold. And at the same time, this area of low pressure that's developing here is going to start sending moisture like this up over top of the cold air. So what you get then is very cold air near the ground where we are, and then very warm air above us. And what that yields then, as you'll see, is a lot of ice and not snow. So if you look at the Carolinas here, we can see if I advance this forward through time, this starts sometime midday, late day on Saturday. The model timing is a little different. So some models have us starting to get some precipitation by around lunchtime. Others hold it off until maybe after dark. So somewhere in that 12 to 7 p.m. period. Again, it's still a couple of days away. Timing will be improved in the next day or two. But you can see already we see some snow across northern North Carolina, some ice already across the southern part of the state, much of South Carolina. And if I step this forward through time, you can watch what happens. The snow shifts northward, and we are just stuck in this band of ice. So if I click on us, I can kind of give you a walkthrough of what ice actually looks like. So how we read this, let me get my drawing tool back, is this line, this blue line right in here, that's the freezing line. That's 32 degrees. So what happens is up here, it's way below freezing. So this is all snow up here. So you get your little snowflake, and it's falling, it's falling, it's falling. Then notice it crosses above freezing, so now it gets warm. So that snowflake starts to melt and turns into a raindrop. And then that raindrop keeps falling, and now look, the temperature down at the ground is only 19 degrees. So that raindrop freezes, and we get sleet. But what happens is if this thing goes way over here and then it's really shallow at the ground, we get all this melting, but there's not enough time for it to refreeze, and that's when we get freezing rain, and that's the fear. The fear is that there's enough warm air above us and not enough depth to the cold air that we get a lot of freezing rain from this event. So if I step this forward through time, you can see we just stay in this freezing rain all this entire storm system, sleet and freezing rain, all the way overnight Sunday into Monday before it finally starts wrapping up. So that's one possible solution. So on this one, if you notice, the area of low pressure that the GFS has is down here across like Alabama, and then a new low forms along the coast, and basically the low just stays to our east, and that's one solution. The European model has a different opinion and has been shifting over the last couple of runs. But again, you see here's this big area of high pressure. Here comes all the snow and ice. Again, A little bit later timing. It has some light precipitation here late in the day on Saturday, 4 or 5 p.m. You can see more precipitation by 7 p.m. and then much more precipitation overnight. It starts off as purely sleet, and eventually we just transition to all freezing rain. So if I click on Charlotte here, you'll see what I mean. You'll see the difference in this atmospheric profile. So again, here's the freezing line. It's about right in here. So now, again, snow, it falls. This turns to rain right here. But look how shallow the cold air is. It's this little tiny bit of cold air that's like 25 degrees. So those raindrops take time to freeze. So if they don't have enough time to freeze, when they hit the ground, then they freeze anything that's down here. And that's what freezing rain is. And unfortunately, the later model runs that we've been seeing are showing more and more freezing rain potential. So the other difference is if I step this forward, we can see, notice the track of the low. The GFS had this thing going way south of us. The European model has it going to our west, which brings in even more warm air, and that's why we're seeing more of a freezing rain response from this. But the timing is similar. It ends late Sunday into Monday. That system goes out to sea. So if you were hoping for a big snowstorm, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is a lot of ice. So I like to show, these are what are called the Ensemble. So this is a group of a lot of different models all together. So it's better than looking at just one. And this kind of gives you a range of options. So this is the snowfall forecast for this storm system. So you can see Charlotte, Raleigh, South Carolina, virtually no snow in our area. It's really up when you get to the North Carolina, Virginia border and northward. That's where the most snow will be. Again, because we're going to be getting the freezing rain. So what I like about this is I can step this forward through time, and this shows you kind of the 10th percentile of freezing rain, kind of what the models on the low end will give us, and then the 90th percentile. So kind of like the lowest we'll get, the highest we'll get in terms of freezing rain. So if I step this forward through time, these numbers are kind of astronomically high. Now again, this is not exactly what would stick to everything. This is just what would fall as freezing rain. But you can see in Charlotte, on the low end, we're at 0.4. On the high end, it's close to 2 inches. Raleigh, it's 0.3 to 2 inches. 0.3 to 2 inches in Greensboro. So you can see this corridor of very large amounts of freezing rain. Now this is not how much would actually accumulate on the tree branches. You can cut these numbers in about half or more, because as the rain's falling, some of it's going to fall off onto the ground. It's not going to all freeze. But suffice it to say, the Weather Service has put out a winter storm warning for or watch for our area, and their initial forecast kind of is in line with the thinking of freezing rain. They're thinking we're going to get probably a couple of inches of sleet to start when the atmosphere is colder. Then we'll switch over to freezing rain, and we're likely to get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tenths of an inch of freezing rain. Up to an inch of freezing rain is possible. Now again, exactly where this axis lines up. So again, let me show this. If I get my drawing tool again. So this is a pretty wide axis of freezing precipitation. But if that low moves a little further north, this freezing rain potential will move north. If the low's a little bit more south, the freezing rain potential will be farther south. The more south it is from us, the more sleet we get. The more north it is, the less freezing rain, and we might even transition to some rain at the very end of the period. So it really depends on the strength and location of the low, how much cold air gets to funnel in. But suffice it to say, this is going to be a pretty big ice storm for somewhere in the Carolinas. And it's pointing towards this corridor right now. So kind of the upstate of South Carolina through much of central and western North Carolina. Put it into perspective, anything above a quarter of an inch of ice, that's when tree branches start breaking off. Above half an inch of ice, that's when trees and power lines can come down. If it gets above an inch of accumulated ice, that's when, I hate to say catastrophic levels of damage, but that's when you see big infrastructure damage, big time tree damage. So all this to say, the axis is going to shift. We're still 2.5 days away, but because all the models are kind of converging on this very icy solution, I would definitely prepare now. I would make sure you have batteries. I would make sure your phones and everything are charged up. Make sure you have enough water and food for a prolonged period of it being below freezing with a lot of ice. The other thing I'll just show are temperatures. If I go and look at the temperature graphic here, so if we switch to our area, this will be the other. It's making me log in again. This will be my other really big impact. So once we get all of this potential frozen precipitation on the ground, and Monday happens, and it's all the the freezing rain and sleet or whatever we're getting has ended. The big story is going to be the temperatures. So if we walk this forward, I'll just show you what's going to happen on Saturday. So here's Saturday morning. It's 29 degrees. Remember what I said, around sometime midday is when precipitation will start. So we're right at freezing, but the moment precipitation starts, watch what happens. The temperature drops to 29, 25, 23. So the surface is going to get really cold overnight. Saturday into Sunday, and then you see it drops all the way down to 18 on Sunday morning. But by the time we get into the afternoon hours, we climb back up into the 20s and whatnot. But then we get really cold air that comes blasting in behind the system, and so anything that falls on the ground is going to be a hard freeze. We're likely to drop below 10 degrees Monday night into Tuesday morning. So anything that's on the ground is going to stay solid ice. So my warning to you is you have 2.5 days to prepare. We have not seen an ice storm potentially of this magnitude in 20 years, so now is the time to prepare and make sure you have everything ready to go. My plan is to give you another update tomorrow afternoon, so Thursday, and then one final one on Friday, the night before this event. So again, the models are going to change. We're almost in range of our high-resolution models. They're flying some Hurricane Hunter aircraft around the country to try to sample the atmosphere and get better data into the models. So these models are going to shift a little bit. But for now, I would prepare for kind of worst-case scenario, hope for best-case scenario. So that's the update. So I'm sorry to disappoint about snow, but this is going to be a pretty big winter storm, I think. So anyway, take care. I will see you all tomorrow with another update.